All right, welcome back. It's Adobe Camera Raw Part 3, and I said that this would be the last video, and I completely lied. So I made it. It was way too long. I was moving too fast, so we're going to slow down. We're just going to go ahead and do a part today, and then I'll do another part. Otherwise, it was going to be over an hour long, and it's just too much to ingest. So let's go ahead and move. So we are in Adobe Bridge, which is a browser, and I wanted to show you guys a couple of things in here. So one of the issues that you'll run into if you don't shoot RAW, so in this case, I have this image right here, which is a JPEG, and we're going to do something weird. I'm going to hold Shift and click on so I clicked on the first image. If you hold Shift and click on the next, it selects all those images. And I want to put all those images in Adobe Camera Raw. Now, if I double click them, it's going to send them to Photoshop. But the RAW files will open up in RAW and the JPEG will actually go straight into Photoshop, but I don't want that. You can actually open a JPEG image into Adobe Camera Raw, even though it's not a RAW file. And we can do that by Command R, which is if you go up here, File, Open in Camera Raw. Over here, that we see right here, that is our quick key, Command R. We'll click on that. And it's going to send all these photos into Adobe Camera Raw. So we can see we've got all of our images before. Before we were just dealing with one image, but yeah, you can throw multiple images in there. I usually do multiple like images. So if I had a portrait of this woman and I had another one that was very similar, I can actually tone these at the same time and exactly alike by copying the settings. So there's a couple ways to do it, and we'll just do it on these bottom two so I can show you. So I'm just going to hold Shift and click this image to add. So both these images are selected. I'll do this. It won't look good. Make it bright. Well, notice it made that one bright. If I make it really dark, it makes both of them really dark. So whatever I do here, it does to both images. So I'm toning both of them at the same time. So we'll go back. Other thing I could do is just tone this image. Okay. And then I could copy these settings, and there's lots of ways to copy these settings. You can come over to these three little dots and click on this. And you can come down here to Copy Edit Settings, which is Command C, and it's always Command C. All right. And you can come down to this image and paste them. So I can hit Command V as in Victor, or I can come over to here, click on those three dots and go Paste Settings. And as you can see, it's Command V. So I'll just paste those settings. And so what I did here will apply here. You can also tone this image, throw it into Photoshop, and then when you bring your next image in, you can click on those three dots and do Apply Previous Settings. Now, it doesn't do your selective adjustments. It just does global adjustments, but just some information. So remember, I've got mine here. It's just a refresher. If you click and hold, this is left click and hold down here on this icon, you could make it so they're horizontal and they go this way. Now you can see it happening. In my case, I like vertical. So we're going to put them over there on the vertical side. All right, I have switched back to Adobe Bridge. And so I'm going to show you the double click method. This is just double clicking or double left clicking. And boom, it's going to take a RAW file and throw that into Adobe Photoshop. And so we left on selective adjustments before. So let's go ahead and we're going to click on that and we're going to go back in. Remember, we've got select subject, select sky, and select background. We also touched on select people, but we didn't have multiple people in that image. So if you look down here right now, we've got option for all people that we see right here. We've got the person on the left and then the person on the right. And the artificial intelligence identifying those two subjects. So let's say I need to tone these people individually. Like this dress is pretty white, but let's say I want to brighten up this person here on the right. So I can select her face, signifying it's getting selected. It's turning it red. Now we have the option here to select the entire person, or I can click on the regions or areas that I want. So do I want to do her facial skin, her body skin, her eyebrows, whites of her eye, pupils, lips, hair, and clothes? Okay. So I selected all of them, and then I can hit create, and it's creating that mask that we see up here, our mask. Remember, white is the area where the adjustment is going to happen and black isn't. Then I can come over here, I can get my slider and slide that, and as I make that adjustment, she lightens up. Let's say we just want to lighten the skin, not the clothes and everything else on the other person. We can go create new mask. We're going to select the people again. This time we're going to click on the person on the left, but we don't want the whole person, so we're going to get rid of the whole person, and we're going to select everything but the clothes. Okay, so we've selected everything but her clothes. Then we'll hit create, and we can see it's just a little teeny tiny area right there, just their upper body. So we need to click on that mask, and then when we just brighten that area, we're able to brighten or adjust her, and we can use any of these adjustments. Now, one of the things that's different inside of this program is we have this color temperature thing here. So this is like our white balance sliders, but we also have this hue and saturation adjustment. And what this allows you to do is just sort of shift the color one way or another. We will get back into this later, but for right now, the main stuff that's important is just to focus on these basic adjustments that we see here. If we wanted to go back to this mask, we could just click on that mask. And if I want to add her flowers to it, I can hit add. Well, how do we want to do it? The brush. I can just take the brush and I can apply the mask to that. And remember, all that's doing is adding white to the rest of the mask. If we look at that on the black and white, it's going to show us now this area, it all good. So this area that's all in white is getting the mask, and the black area is not getting anything. Now you can actually use grays. So if I had 50% gray, and I made an adjustment, it would give it 50% of that adjustment. And since we have this here, I want to show everybody how the brush works, okay? So we're going to go create new mask, use the brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the brush a little bit bigger, and we want to see this on black and white. Yep, so show overlay. And we're going to come in here and we're going to have our feather all the way up. I'm going to make this adjustment here. And when I make that adjustment, you see how it's white and then it fades off onto the sides? That's because we have that large feather. So that inner circle is 100% and then it fades off to 0. And what that allows you to do, especially in smaller adjustments, it allows you to blend easier. If you don't have a feather and you do that, we're going to have a totally hard edge. And yeah, sometimes the hard edge can work, but if you did that around somebody's face, you would see on their face where you brightened it and where you didn't darken it. We will reset this and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to come up here to masking. I'm going to hit the brush. The quick key for that is K. And we've got no feather. And so I'll just go in here. So I don't want the overlay. Can't see what I'm doing. Okay. And we'll actually switch it back to color overlay. So that's her. And then I'm just going to make a small adjustment on her face. And then the other girl, I'm going to do another one with the quick key is K. So I made K. It's a new mask. In this case, I'm going to put the feather about halfway up. I'm going to do the same thing, just brighten her. I'll come down here, brighten it up a little bit. And then we're going to zoom in. So plus, plus, plus. And you can see right here, see that hard edge where it doesn't blend in? But here you can't tell where I did the adjustment because we have that feather and that feather is blending it in. That's a good example of, yeah, the adjustments were about the same, but you can see it here because you have a hard edge, and when you have a soft edge, you get rid of it. Now I could go to mask 1 and feather that edge. right, to blend it in. So we could blend her shoulder in a little bit. Obviously, you can see it. I would normally take that out, but you can see how it's blending in better than it did before. So that is what feather does in an adjustment. So we're going to hit cancel because I don't want this image anymore. And we're going to go back to bridge. Let's open up this image right here. This is a JPEG, so I need to use that Command R, which is open into RAW. It'd be Control R most likely on a PC. And that will allow you to open the JPEG into RAW. And the reason I want to do that is because now we're going to select objects. We want to, so once we hit the masking icon, we want to come down here to objects. So once you're inside of objects, you have two ways to make a selection. The first one is this brush, and you basically want to make your brush just a little bit bigger than the object and make sure that you just kind of paint over where it is. And then it will analyze it and you can see, yeah, it made a perfect adjustment. I can darken that up. I'll make it real dark so you can see what's happening. So we've made that selection, object selection. If I want to create a new mask, I can go back to objects. And in this time, we're going to draw a rectangle. So we'll come up here, click on this. And this is a little cattywampus, so we'll have to kind of, all you're doing is selecting an area and then the computer's analyzing it and trying to make a selection. And you can see it did an awesome job of making that selection, and that's what Select Objects does. Obviously, if it's screwed up or it was missing a piece, you could manually go in there, hit add, and add to that selection. Let's go ahead and reset this. And we're going to drop down here to linear gradient. So this is another mask. We're going to go ahead and do that. And basically, I'm going to take a line and start here and draw up. You can adjust this mask now. You could come in here and grab these points, but we're just going to do it. So remember, we're seeing in the mask up here, if we do white on black, what's happening. This is black, this is white. So no adjustment here and max adjustment here. Remember, gray is a percentage. So it's going to fade it up. We'll go back to color overlay. And now when I darken this image, it's doing a whole bunch of darkening down here and no darkening up here. And I could change that so we have more white space like this. Because we have a gradient, we're doing more of an adjustment here and less up here. Now, this is good for skies, so you can darken the sky and make it bright up in the top of the sky, and then as it gets down to your horizon line, it would look better. So in that case, I would want to rotate this so it matches the sky, and then we could simply just move that. So if we thought this was a sky, this area up here is going to get the darkening of the adjustment, right? It's going to get darker, and then it's going to blend it into the horizon line. And that is linear gradient. So let's go to the radial gradient. Does sort of the same thing, but you start in the center. So right now, this area here is going to get a mask and it's going to fade it out. If I darkened it, the center is going to get darker. And if I want the outer, if I want it to get brighter in the center, I go the other way. Now, a lot of times you could use this for a vignette, or remember, we can switch a mask. Since maybe we want the white on the outside and the black on the inside, we can just click on our three little dots right there, go to invert mask, and now it's white here and dark out there, and we could sort of create this vignette. We can make this a little bit bigger, and we'll create the vignette so it's getting darker on the outsides and not on the inside. Radial gradient. Last set is by color and by brightness. So if we pick by color range, I can come over here. It's got that weird blue color and I can select that. And you can see it did a pretty good job of selecting that area, but it didn't get this little bit right here. So we can come over to the refine and add. So if I go to the right, it's going to start adding. You can see it's adding areas over here. So we can try to make it work better, but it's not working better. So let's go like this. And if we want to have less of an area, we go that way. So in this case, it did okay around 50%. If we want to add this to it, our best option is to just add to the mask and use a brush. And when you want to do small areas that need to be accurate, first of all, you should zoom into them. Okay. So it's plus plus. And when I add, I want my brush to be smaller, harder. So I'm actually lower the feather some more. And then I'm just going to come in here and try to add this and make it accurate. Now, obviously I would spend more time doing it, but we're just coming in here and adding those areas. Here's a little trick for you. Trying to draw straight lines like almost impossible, but it's easy. You left click. So the trick here is to left click once, hold shift, go to the bottom, left click again, and it draws a perfectly straight line. And then it adds that area into that selection. So now I've got this selected better. It's not perfect. We probably need to get the rest of those, but we've selected that area using color range. So reset that. We'll go into range, and this time we're going to use luminance range. So luminance range is selecting a brightness value. So if I want to select this monitor, right, it's going to select everything that's in that brightness. Okay. I want to refine this. So we can grab this and drag it out, and it's going to select more of an area. Or if we go to the left, it's going to select less of an area. And what color range do we want? Well, we want it over here in the darker shadow areas. And see, as I move this, we can get stuff out. So once I get that monitor selected, that looks pretty good. All right. So it's selecting this area, but it's also selecting here. If I don't want this, it's really easy. Subtract, brush, rid of it. Now that area is just selected. Those are all the selection methods that we have inside of Adobe Camera Raw. So we're going to go ahead and hit done or cancel because we don't want that image. We're just going to hit yes. And we're going to go to this image that we have over here. We're going to select this image right here. This is a Sony RAW file. We'll double click that. And we're going to send this into Adobe Camera Raw. And so we're going to have a little fun and do something cool because a lot of the stuff we've been doing so far is kind of boring. So we're going to take a look at Enhance. And there's a couple of different options that we can do under Enhance. So we have this image and we'll say this is the greatest photo we've ever taken in the history of our life. And we want to make it huge, but our camera doesn't shoot a very big size. There's all kinds of different ways in photography to enlarge an image, but Adobe came out with this a couple years ago and it works really, really well. So if you come up here to the three little dots that we see here and we left click that, we can slide on down to Enhance. So if we click Enhance, this little window comes up, and by default, it's not going to be on super resolution, it's going to be on denoise. And since we're on denoise, we'll just denoise this even though it doesn't need to be denoised. And let me move this over so you can see her. But what we're doing here is we're removing noise from the image, which we used to call grain back in the old film days. Now, there is still another way to remove noise inside of Adobe Camera Raw, and I'm pretty sure it's under the detail option that we see down here. But this works a lot better. Now, you can't use this method with a JPEG. It has to be a RAW file. And the trick is, when you use this, it's going to take this RAW file and create a new RAW file. And that new RAW file is going to be a DNG, which is Adobe's digital negative. So we're going to denoise this. By default, it's usually on 50. I do mine at 40 because I think 50 is a little bit too much. So the more you use, the more noise it's going to remove. The less it's going to remove. So we'll hit Enhance, and it takes a little bit. Remember, this is using AI offsite to do this. And so it's going through and doing whatever it seems to do. And then over here soon, a new image is going to pop up. All right, you can see on the left-hand side over here that we have that new file. And if you go up here, notice it says Enhanced Noise Reduction. And this is our old file, which doesn't have that. So it adds more information to your little slug line that we have up here. So now we can go in and tone this. You really want to do this before you make any adjustments to it. All right. I'm going to go back up to this image because we can do the enhance again. We're going to go down to enhance. We have another option. So if we click denoise off, we have raw details. And if we hover over raw details, it says improve details and reduces artifacts in most raw files. If you want to try that out, feel free to do it. But what we want to look at is super resolution, and basically it's going to double the size of our image. So if we have a 3000 pixel on our longest dimension, it's going to make it 6000 pixels. And this doesn't take as long as noise reduction. So we'll hit enhance. It's going to go through its little process. And then in a second here on the left, we're going to have another image that's a DNG, but this one's going to have the super resolution designation added to it. All right, so you can look up here, enhanced super resolution DNG. This one is our noise resolution, and this one up here is just our regular one. So I don't know if you could load this DNG back in again and then do super resolution to one that you removed noise on and try it. It's not something I ever did. So that's it for today's video. I'm 100% positive, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at all these other options that you can use inside of the main global adjustments. So I'll explain what effects, curves, and everything else that's available inside of the program. Don't forget, this is a new channel. If you could give us a thumbs up, that will really help to get other people to be able to see this on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. You can share this. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. If you look in the description, I have a Facebook group. So if you run into issues, that allows you to upload pictures or videos so I can see what in the world you're talking about. Sometimes in comments, I don't know what people are talking about, and that's difficult to help. So that's it. Have a nice day. See you guys next time.